Ford High School Weekly is brought to you by your Oklahoma Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Oklahoma. And by Rib Crib, smoking good stuff since '92.
Welcome to Ford High School Weekly. I'm your host, Deion Imade. On this week's episode, we're talking with my guy, Michael Knight from Prep Red Zone. Michael, how's it going?
It's going good. We're getting closer and closer to the playoffs. The playoff picture is still incredibly blurry, but we're starting to figure out some things. Teams are starting to lock up their positions within the district. And, you know, like I said, we only got a couple weeks left of the regular season. So it's time to really figure some things out here in the next 10 days or so.
Well, let's go ahead and try and figure them out right now while we're at it, all right? So this week's matchups, who do you like and what games are, drawing your attention?
Well, coming into this week, there's a really importance on some of the smaller classes like Class A. There's some really good matchups there. But in some of the higher classes like 5A, there's some really good matchups featuring top 10 teams, in my opinion. Ardmore, who's still undefeated, they take on Noble. And that's a big matchup in that district because Ardmore plays Lawton Mac next week. Lawton MacArthur is also undefeated. They've already beaten Noble, so Ardmore now gets their chance. And if they win, Lawton Mac should win this week as well. It sets up a Week 10 undefeated versus undefeated for a district championship. So that's going to be a good matchup there in Class 5A. Staying right there, Pryor going on the road to Collinsville. Can anybody test Collinsville before the playoffs? They haven't really been tested this year. Maybe Pryor is the only team that can provide a test. And then Bishop McGuinness going to the Rock at Guthrie. Both of those teams gave Carl Albert a great shot. McGuinness losing to the Titans in overtime, Guthrie losing in the final minute. And now they face off against each other to try to get a home field first-round playoff game to kind of lock up that second seed in that district. Well, first for Bishop McGuinness, it's pretty simple. Don't change if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And, Michael Taffy, their star running back, he hasn't been broken this year. He hasn't been contained this year either. So it's kind of a simple solution for both teams, really. If you're McGuinness, feed Michael Taffy the ball. And if you're Guthrie, find a way to slow him down. I really like Guthrie's team defense. I think that they're one of the better defensive units in Class 5A. They're a team that, is historically one of the better programs over the last 20 years in Oklahoma. But yet this year, I think that they're kind of flying under the radar. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that they don't have, the star power that some of the other teams in Class 5A have. They don't have a Michael Taffy who's going to be a Division I recruit at the next level. They don't have that, star power across the board. They just have a lot of good football players, kind of similar to Tuttle in Class 4A, just not a lot of star power individuals that are, some of the better recruits in the state. They just play extremely well as a team. So Guthrie, I think, is going to give Bishop McGuinness all they want and then some. I think it's going to be a close game throughout. And I mentioned how both teams played extremely close with Carl Albert. So I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. And it's really going to come down to what kind of game does Michael Taffy have. If he has another performance that we've seen already from him this year where he runs for 200-plus yards and 5 touchdowns, it's probably going to be a long night for Guthrie.
Man, I can't wait to check it out. We have more with Michael Knight coming up. But first, let's check out our Billy Sims barbecue running back of the game.
And our Billy Sims barbecue running back of the game. Running back of the game brought to you by Billy Sims Barbecue. It's not just barbecue, it's Boomer Q. And no surprise here, Marion Horn.
Yeah, he did a great job all night long protecting the football. He was a workhorse. And 29 carries, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns in the game winner. And it was tough. He had competition on the other side from Robinson, who had 4 touchdowns tonight. But you got to give it to Horn. He got the game winner.
That's the Billy Sims Barbecue running back of the game. It's not just barbecue, it's Boomer Q.
Welcome back to Ford High School Weekly. I'm still here talking with my man, Michael Knight from Prep Red Zone, and we're here to discuss 6A2 now. Now, Michael, there's always conversations around this division, but the main thing is everybody thinks that Bixby is taking the gold ball. Some people think they can, go over there to the NFL and take on the New York Jets. So, so what do you think about the other competitors like Booker T, like Sand Springs, and Choctaw, who they faced a couple of weeks ago? What are their chances in coming up and being a true competitor to get that gold ball?
Well, I understand that this is a show, and at the end of the day, it's for entertainment, and you want to give a reason for people to watch, but it's goose egg, no shot. I'll say this. I'm not gonna count out Booker T because we haven't seen them go head to head with Bixby yet. They get that in week 10, so we'll learn, what Booker T's chances are against Bixby next week. But man, I mean, you mentioned Choctaw and Sand Springs; those are two teams that Bixby's already blown out this month. So in terms of realistic chances for 6A2, I've never been more convinced that it's going to be a runaway for the Spartans. This is a football team that, in my opinion, has no weaknesses. The only time that they've looked somewhat beatable was in week 1 against Jinx in the second half when the Trojans were rallying and nearly knocked off the Spartans, but turnovers ended up costing them in that one. They found a way to slow down the Bixby offense. Ever since then, Bixby's offense has not even thought about being slowed down. Nobody's even gotten close to that. You can't figure out a way to contain Braylon Presley. If you slow him down in the running game, he's going to beat you as a wide receiver. Connor Kirby, their Wildcat quarterback, is an X factor for them. They have weapons at wide receiver. It's not just Presley running the football. They have Zach Blankenship, who's doing a good job. They have other players as well. Christian Burke has stepped in as QB1 for the Spartans, replacing a guy like Mason Williams, who was 36-1 as the starter, 3 state titles, and Christian's done just fine in that position. And then the defense is one of the best in the state, led by senior linebacker Jack Puckett. So I understand that we're supposed to build up some hype, and I'm going to have to do that later on in November when it comes to 6A2. And I'm interested to see what Booker T does. I really am. Athletically, they have what it takes to stay in the game there. But man, just team by team, I don't see anybody slowing down the Bixby Spartans unless you start bringing in the New York Jets. I mean, yeah, the Jets would stop them, but we're not going to see that anytime soon.
Well, let's just do this then. For argument's sake, let's take Bixby out of the picture. And let's just say they're already going to be, one of the teams on the sideline on championship day to go against another competitor. Who is going to be that other competitor who makes it out of 6A2 to the championship game?
I really think it's wide open. I really do. I know that Choctaw has the win over Booker T. Washington. They just beat Sand Springs on the road last week as well. So obviously the easy answer would be to say Choctaw. But again, I'm not going to overlook Booker T. Washington. I think that, in a rematch with Choctaw, and I don't know how the bracket would lay out, I believe that they would face off against each other in the semifinals if they finish the way they're supposed to finish in the district. But I think that Booker T could give Choctaw a run for their money. Del City is the team from the west side in 6A2 that nobody's talking about, but you got a great chance to see them last week, and they have a really strong football team that knows how to win these close games. I've been so impressed by the way that they've been, battled through adversity, and it's a team in Del City that, if you figure out how to stop the run, you're going to have success against them, but nobody's really been able to do that. And, the fact that they've been able to win 3 overtime games, back-to-back overtime games with Deer Creek and PC North the week before, this is a team that knows how to win close games. And when it comes to playoff time, all the games, for the most part, are going to be close. So they're going to feel right at home. So Del City's certainly a team to watch out for. But I think when it comes down to the main contenders, it's probably going to be Booker T. Washington and Choctaw.
Yeah, for Dell City, I hope all those overtime games doesn't hurt them towards the end of the season with playing all those extra minutes, something that you have to look out for if you're a Dell City Eagles fan. But with that being said, like we mentioned in the start of this, playoff time is almost around the corner, 2 more games, and then we're looking at, that chase for that gold ball. So who are some of the teams that are surprising you that will enter the playoff picture, or that has an opportunity to enter the playoff picture with these last couple of games?
Well, I mean, we just talked about Dell City and them getting a win over Deer Creek. I've been really impressed with the Antlers. I mean, they jumped up 21-0 on Dell City, and if they hold on to win that game, they're in a really good position come playoff time. But even despite losing that game, I think that they could potentially be one of those dark horses in 6A2. We mentioned Sand Springs. Those two teams kind of mirror each other, in my opinion. I really like what they have on the offensive side of the ball. I like their defense as well, some of the personnel that they have on that side of the ball. Both of them have really experienced quarterbacks, strong running games. Obviously, Deer Creek, an outstanding offensive line. So I think that those two teams could end up providing some dark horse mentality, some teams that could provide some upsets or definitely open up some eyes over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, our quarterback Brett Pence was pretty impressive for Deer Creek. He did a great job slinging that rock around. Well, let's go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, me and Michael Knight will discuss 6A1 here on Ford High School Week. Welcome back to Ford High School Week. Let's go ahead and move on to 6A football here. What games this week kind of got your attention, if there are any, and why?
Well, you have to start with 6A1. Going back to last week, I think that the biggest, one of the bigger upsets of this season, it definitely woke some people up. I don't know if it was that massive upset, but it definitely opened up some eyes across the state. And I'm talking about Mustang going on the road and knocking off Owasso. Owasso could not stop but from throwing the ball to Mustang. I think they finished with 5 or 6 interceptions as a team. I know Karsten Keene, their senior defensive back, had 4 interceptions all by himself. So that puts Mustang in a position now to host a first-round playoff game, and it puts Owasso in the 3rd seed. And with Broken Arrow beating Edmond Santa Fe on Friday night as well in another close and entertaining game throughout, that means in the first round of the playoffs, if things stay the way they should over the next 2 weeks, in the first round, we're going to get Owasso at Broken Arrow, which means Bill Blankenship versus Josh Blankenship round 2 with a trip to the semifinals on the line. We talked about it earlier back in September when those two teams faced off in the regular season. The storylines kind of write themselves, and the heat is a little hotter, even though it's going to be in November when they play, as those two teams, fighting for a semifinal berth. But in terms of 6A1, that definitely shook up some things when it comes to playoff seeding.
I agree very much so. That was a big, shocking defeat that nobody expected throughout the state.
Yeah, and I think if you're Owasso, you have to figure out some things because you have such a dangerous offense, and there's no doubt. I mean, even in the loss, they scored 20-something points in the 4th quarter. They made it interesting. They had a chance to win the game in the end, so you have an offense that can absolutely light people up. I personally still think that they have just as good of a shot as any to make it to Edmond in the state championship game. But the one thing that's, in my opinion, crystal clear in 6A1, the Jinx Trojans are hands down the best team in 6A1 right now. They're the favorites, and they're the defending champs for a reason, and it's going to take a lot to knock off the Trojans in December.
You said Owasso still has an opportunity to get better, and they still have a chance to make it far in that race for the gold ball. But with it being week 9 and playoffs are literally 2 weeks away, does that secondary and the defense of Owasso have time to get better?
They have time to get better, absolutely. But at the same time, it's more so of the offense and being able to outscore teams. And I don't have as many question marks about that side of the ball as I do, compared to some of the other contenders in 6A1. And I mentioned this in the same conversation over the weekend when I was talking about Owasso. when it comes to the picture, the overall landscape of 6A1, Owasso, they have some question marks, sure, but so does everybody else except for Jinx right now. I mean, I have questions about Union. I have questions about Mustang now, Broken Arrow, Edmond Santa Fe, whoever you want to start the conversation with. There are question marks about all of those contenders. So while Owasso, yeah, they might go into the playoffs as a 3 seed, it won't surprise me at all if they end up playing for a state championship because they have such a high-powered offense. And if the defense can just figure out a way to bend but not break, and I know no coach really wants to go into a matchup thinking that, but at the same time, that might have to be the philosophy that gets them to Edmond.
Hey, I've been a part of some of those bend but don't break defenses. They get you through. But before we get out of here, for all the information on Prep Red Zone, where can people find it?
Yeah, you just go to prepredzone.com. We're in over 35 countries across the United States, or 35 states across the country. But obviously, we focus here on Oklahoma. So go ahead and click on the Oklahoma site, and you can check us out right there, prepredzone.com/Oklahoma. We just wrapped up all of our prospect rankings from the 2022 class that we updated this week, the top 150 seniors led by Booker T. Washington standout Gentry Williams. He's our top overall prospect in the senior class. We also updated the 2023 rankings, the 2024 rankings. We also have a 2025 watch list up as well. So October was a big month for us at Prep Red Zone, updating all of the prospect rankings. But November is going to be even bigger with obviously a lot of playoff preview content, playoff recaps, championship previews, all of that stuff. So now's a great time to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And when you do, use the coupon code KNIGHT25, that's KNIGHT25, and that'll save you 25% off your subscription.
Well, thank you, my man, Michael Knight from Prep Red Zone, and I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Absolutely. Look forward to it every week, man.
Well, that was Michael Knight from Prep Red Zone, and when we come back, we'll have more for you here on Ford High School Weekly. Welcome back to Ford High School Weekly. Last week, we had 2 great battles on the Ford Game of the Week. Edmond Santa Fe and Broken Arrow went back and forth for 4 quarters, and Dale City and Deer Creek had to settle things in overtime.
A thriller here this evening, 35-28, and it truly came down to the very final play.
Certainly did. Outstanding effort by both of these ball clubs, but Dell City, once again, another week, having just enough in overtime to get the win.
All right, let's take a look at those highlights, and we start at the top.
Yeah, it all started with this turnover right here, and they didn't get another one by Deer Creek, but good job ripping that ball away from the running back and giving their offense another opportunity with the ball. This was how we got our scoring going as Holly gets the pass from Prince, gets the touchdown for the Antlers to make it 7-0. Then this interception by Jones as he takes it to the 50-yard line, giving his offense another opportunity with the football, and Wilson takes it into the end zone for a Deer Creek touchdown. And then look at the third one. We're making it 3 touchdowns, making it 21-0. But finally, at the end of the first half, the Dell City Eagles find a way to answer back, and then they gave the ball to number 40. And he got them going in the second half, going 28 unanswered points, and Jason Smith making it look easy, refusing to be brought down and taking this big-time pass by my man, Thomas, going the distance, 50-yard pass to the end zone, and this big-time sack by Aaron Carter. Nice play between the legs. Pence takes, and this one is the touchdown that gets us into overtime. Saw that little between the legs by Pence. Right. That was impressive right there. And they go in to score right there, and this play right here, when they're trying to go in to take the lead so they can score and not go to overtime, this defense for Dell City comes up big once again, and in overtime, Jason Smith gets up and over, gets into the end zone with the stretched arms, and gets the touchdown for Dell City, and that's enough for the win and the victory for the Eagles.
There's a look at the final numbers. Passing yards, obviously in favor of Deer Creek. Rushing yards.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the highlights. And there were definitely plenty of them. Broken Arrow got things working in the first drive of the game. 9 plays, 61 yards, 7-0, but here comes Santa Fe right back. Pfeiffer to Talon Shetron, one of his 2 touchdown receptions on the night.
Yeah, Reeves actually got in the way, ran the wrong pattern, but Shetron was able to catch that pass. And then Robinson got loose. They finally got him on the outside on a pass. He covered a lot of ground, coast to coast, 66-yard touchdown. That got him going.
That gave him the lead, or BA still had the lead at that point. And then this 3-yard touchdown run by Robinson made it 21-17. Santa Fe took their first lead there, and then it was back and forth the rest of the night.
And here's Robinson again with that patented angle cutback. Nobody touched him. Another touchdown, John.
Ramsey's going to throw up top to R.J. Spears-Jennings. He's saying, hey, you can't guard me. That's 6 right there for us. And then Robinson again, second half. Look at this one.
Well, and this came after Santa Fe converted a 3rd and 20 the previous play, and you had to wonder if maybe the spirit of Broken Arrow was crushed there as Santa Fe came back and take the lead. But Broken Arrow showed the resilience to come back, and Horn getting the winning touchdown untouched and put the game away after the big defensive play.
That sealed it, 47-42, and then Broken Arrow got an interception on Santa Fe's final drive of the night. And Tony, look at all the yards up there.
It's incredible. What balance for Broken Arrow. 259 on the ground, 251 in the air. And Robinson finally got going, over 100 yards rushing. We talked about 180 total for Santa Fe. Pfeiffer with 254 passing. And look at the penalties. We didn't have any in the first half. Those were even fairly even.
By Burks. Direct snap to Presley, right side. Oh, it's Kirby up there helping block for him. He's got a first down and more. He's going to be gone.
Be sure to go to YurView.com/OK for highlights and replays of the 4th game of the week. And check out our podcast and past episodes at YurView.com/OK. Remember, only the best in Oklahoma make it to Ford High School Weekly. So thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Deion Imade.
Ford High School Weekly has been brought to you by your Oklahoma Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Oklahoma. And by Rib Crib, smoking good stuff since '92.